My name is Alexander, and for as long as I can remember, I have felt different from others. As a child, I was always shorter than my classmates, quieter, and far more timid. My reserved nature and small stature made me an easy target for bullies at school. Every day, they mocked me, pushed me, or made me fall, as if my discomfort was their form of amusement. I still vividly recall those moments, the sting of their words, the humiliation of their actions, making me feel insignificant, as though I had no value. Each day, I returned home burdened by their insults, feeling both invisible and simultaneously the unfortunate center of attention. My parents, though loving and supportive, couldn't fully grasp the depth of my pain. They would always try to lift my spirits, promising that things would improve as I grew older, that the hurt would pass. But deep down, I knew they didn't truly understand the weight I carried. One day, noticing how despondent I was, they decided to give me a special gift. That gift was a small gray kitten with piercing blue eyes, Jose. The moment Jose came into my life, something shifted. From the instant I held him, I felt an indescribable bond. Stroking his soft fur brought me a sense of calm and comfort, a feeling of being understood without words. Joss never judged me for being quiet or small. He didn't care about my flaws. He simply loved me for who I was. Every day after school, I rushed home to be with him. We spent hours together. Jose curled up on my lap while I read or watched TV. On my saddest days, his presence alone brought me solace. He became my best friend, the one constant source of unconditional love in my life. But life has a way of throwing us into storms we're never prepared for. When I was 15, my parents went out for dinner with friends, a rare evening out for them. That night felt unusually long, the silence in the house heavy and unsettling. Joss stayed close to me, as if he sensed something was wrong. Then the call came. It was the police. A drunk driver had lost control of their car, colliding with my parents' vehicle. They didn't survive. In an instant, my world shattered. I dropped the phone as everything around me blurred into chaos. The life I knew was gone, and I was left completely alone. Those weeks were a haze of pain and numbness. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. My parents, my only family, were gone. The house felt emptier than ever, except for Joss. He stayed with me through it all, sitting by my side as I cried, offering silent comfort during my sleepless nights. His love became my lifeline, the one thing anchoring me to the world. As the years went by, I settled into a solitary routine. After high school, I decided to become an electrician, a practical job that kept me busy and distracted. But I withdrew further into myself. I couldn't bring myself to form connections with others, and I avoided social situations entirely. My co-workers occasionally invited me out, but I always declined. The sound of laughter in the office reminded me too much of the bullying I endured as a child, so I kept my distance. My days blurred into a monotonous cycle. Work, home, and time with Jose. He was my only companion, the only one who made me feel truly understood. For years, I questioned whether my life would ever change, whether happiness was something I could ever achieve. But whenever those thoughts crept in, I reminded myself that I had Jose. He was enough, or so I thought. One rainy evening, everything changed. I came home from work, ready to prepare dinner and spend another quiet evening with Jose. But as I stepped into the yard, I saw him lying on the ground, motionless. A deep wound on his neck stained his gray fur with blood. My heart dropped. Panic consumed me as I scooped him up, feeling his fragile, weakened body in my arms. I rushed to the veterinarian, each second stretching into an eternity. At the clinic, the vet's words hit me like a blow. "We'll do our best, but there's not much we can do. The medication will keep him comfortable, but his chances are slim." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from beneath me. I sat in the cold waiting room, unable to think of anything except the possibility of losing Joss. It was as if the pain of losing my parents was crashing down on me all over again. The thought of facing another loss, another void, was unbearable. The following days were a blur of anxiety and heartbreak. Joss remained under observation, and every call from the vet filled me with dread. His condition was stable, but showed no signs of improvement. I felt powerless, trapped in a cycle of fear and despair. The house felt colder and emptier than ever, the silence suffocating. Joss had been my anchor, my reason to keep going, and now I faced the possibility of losing him too. In those moments of uncertainty, I realized just how much Joss meant to me. He wasn't just a pet. He was my family, my confidant, the one who had been with me through every dark chapter of my life. Without him, I wasn't sure how I would find the strength to carry on. Even now, as I write this, I'm not sure how the story will end. But one thing is certain. Joss taught me the meaning of unconditional love. Through him, I learned that even in the depths of pain, love has the power to heal, to anchor us, and to remind us that we're never truly alone. No matter what happens, I will always be grateful for the light he brought into my life, even during my darkest days. I couldn't concentrate at work. Every small noise, every fleeting thought sent my mind into a spiral of fear and despair. The thought of losing Joss, my only companion and closest friend, wrapped itself around my chest like a vice, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. It felt as though I was suffocating under the weight of my emotions, powerless to escape. The anxiety became my constant shadow, growing darker with every minute I spent alone. But the nights were the worst. I would lie in my empty bed, staring at the ceiling, paralyzed by my thoughts. Sleep was a stranger, refusing to visit me, leaving me alone with the torment of my mind. Memories of my parents' death came rushing back, vivid and unrelenting. I saw the accident as though it had happened yesterday. The devastating phone call, the hollow silence that followed, the grief of their loss, which I thought I had buried deep inside, now mixed with the fresh anguish of potentially losing Joss. It was too much to bear. These two traumas merged into a single, overwhelming wave of despair that engulfed me. I felt powerless, completely at the mercy of a life that seemed determined to strip away everything I loved. Helplessness consumed me, and I was terrified, not just of losing Joss, but of the idea that I had no control over the events shaping my existence. One day, during a particularly dark moment, the weight became unbearable. Desperation clawed at my chest, drowning me in panic and pain. I needed an escape, any escape, from the relentless storm within me. That's when a memory surfaced, one I hadn't thought about in years. It was of my old schoolmates, the same ones who had bullied me during my childhood. I remembered seeing some of them in the park over the years, always in groups, laughing and joking like life had never scarred them. But I also knew they had taken a dark path. Many of them had become involved in drugs and crime, their laughter now masking broken lives. On a cold and moonless evening, I made a decision I knew was wrong. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. Maybe oblivion, maybe just a way to silence the pain for a while. I found them where I expected, sitting on a bench under the dim glow of a street lamp, smoke curling around them as they passed something between their hands. The smell of trouble hung thick in the air. They barely acknowledged me as I approached, though I wondered if they recognized me. Perhaps they remembered the quiet, timid boy they had tormented so long ago. But it didn't matter. They knew why I was there. One of them handed me a small bag of pills without a word. "These will help," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "You'll forget everything for a while." I nodded, took the bag, and walked away. When I got home, a new wave of emotions crashed over me. Anger, shame, frustration, and above all, a profound sense of failure. How had I fallen so low? How had I reached a point where I was seeking solace in something I knew could destroy me? I sat on the couch, staring at the pills on the table in front of me, my mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Anger at myself, fear of the future, pain from the past, it all collided, leaving me feeling trapped, with no way out. Eventually, I reached for the pills. I told myself it would be just once, just enough to numb the pain for a little while. But I didn't stop. I took too many, far too many. The world around me began to blur. My vision dimmed, and the room felt distant, surreal. It was as though I was floating, disconnected from my body. I felt myself slipping away, my consciousness fading as my body crumpled to the floor. In that moment, I was sure it was the end. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my living room anymore. Instead, I found myself in a place that felt otherworldly, yet strangely familiar. The air was warm, and a golden light surrounded me, wrapping me in a cocoon of peace. There was no pain, no fear, just an overwhelming sense of calm. It was as though all the suffering that had plagued me had been lifted, leaving only serenity in its place. As I stood there, unsure of where I was, a figure began to approach me. At first, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was Jesus, or at least that's who I believed it to be. I had never been deeply religious, but in that moment, there was no doubt. He stood before me, radiating compassion and understanding. His presence was unlike anything I had ever felt. Warm, reassuring, and profoundly peaceful. His gaze met mine, and it felt as though he could see straight into my soul. I didn't need to explain my pain or my failures. He already knew everything. Overwhelmed, I began to cry. Years of buried emotions, guilt, sorrow, and anger erupted like a dam breaking. I fell to my knees, unable to speak, consumed by the weight of it all. Jesus gently placed a hand on my shoulder, and in that simple touch, I felt an unspoken understanding, a reassurance that I wasn't alone, that I had never been alone. Through my tears, I finally managed to speak. "Why have I suffered so much in life?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why does everything hurt so much?" He smiled, a smile full of warmth and kindness. "Every suffering has a purpose," he said. "Even if you don't understand it now, there is a greater plan. Every pain you've endured has shaped you into who you are. Your life isn't over, Alexander. There is still so much to do, so much love to give and receive." His words pierced through me, striking a chord I hadn't realized was there. For the first time, I began to see my pain differently. Perhaps it wasn't meaningless. Perhaps it was part of something larger, something I couldn't yet comprehend. I felt small, and insignificant. Yet at the same time, I felt connected to something infinitely greater. He took my hand and led me toward a house in the distance. As we approached, I realized it was my childhood home, the house where I had grown up with my parents. The door opened on its own, and inside I saw them. My parents were there, alive and smiling as though nothing had ever happened. I ran to them, tears streaming down my face. I hugged them tightly, feeling the warmth of their embrace, a warmth I had missed for so long. For the first time in years, my tears weren't born of pain, but of joy. I felt whole, as though the broken pieces of my heart were being put back together. The moment didn't last forever. Slowly, the golden light began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled back. I woke up on the floor of my living room, the pills still untouched on the table. My heart was pounding, and my breath was heavy, but I was alive. And though the pain hadn't disappeared, it no longer consumed me. I had been given a second chance, a chance to face my fears, embrace my pain, and find meaning in the life I still had left to live. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, I felt ready to begin again. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice breaking under the weight of my emotions. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to hold myself together. "I'm sorry for everything, for the life I've had, for not being strong enough to overcome it all." The words were heavy, each one carrying years of guilt, regret, and unspoken anguish. My mother, with the tenderness I had so deeply missed, stroked my hair as she used to when I was a child. Her touch was warm, soothing, and filled with a love that seemed to wash away the burden of my self-reproach. "You don't have to apologize for anything, my love," she said, her voice soft yet unwavering. "You've done your best, and we are so proud of you." Her words took me by surprise. For years, I had carried the belief that I had failed, not just myself, but everyone around me. Yet, in her gaze, I saw no judgment, only understanding. My father, standing beside her, nodded, his expression filled with kindness. "It hasn't been easy, we know that. But you're still here, and you still have time to change everything. Your life is in your hands," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. Their words gave me a flicker of hope, but there was still something gnawing at my heart, something I couldn't ignore. "What about Jose?" I asked, my voice trembling as I thought of my beloved cat, my one constant companion through years of pain and loneliness. "I think he's about to die. I'll never see him again. How will I manage without him?" My mother's smile was gentle, filled with a wisdom that seemed to transcend time and space. "Don't worry, Jose will recover," she said, her voice carrying an inexplicable certainty. "He'll stay with you for a few more years. But when the time comes, he'll come here to us. We'll welcome him with love, just as we've welcomed you now." Her words comforted me in a way I couldn't fully explain. It was as though a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted. They both gestured toward Jesus, who stood nearby, his presence radiating peace and compassion. His eyes seemed to hold all the answers, yet I felt no need to ask more questions. This was the last thing I remembered, before I felt myself being pulled downward, as though I were falling out of a dream. I awoke on the floor of my living room, my heart pounding and my breath shallow. My body felt heavy, but my mind was unusually clear, as if a fog had lifted. The experience I had just gone through, whether a dream, a vision, or something more profound, felt more real than anything I had ever encountered. It left a mark on me, not on my skin, but deep within my soul. I struggled to sit up, still trying to process what had happened, when the phone rang. Startled, I reached for it, my hands trembling. It was the veterinarian. His voice was filled with disbelief, tinged with a cautious excitement. "Marco, I don't know how to explain this," he began, "but Jos woke up this morning. He's much better. It's as if he's miraculously recovered." For a moment, I couldn't speak. His words echoed in my mind like a distant, comforting melody. Jos was better. He had woken up. Relief flooded over me, but it wasn't just relief. It was something deeper, a warmth that spread through my entire being. It was as though the miracle I had experienced had extended beyond me, touching Jos as well. I hadn't lost my best friend. Not yet. The following days were a blur of gratitude and disbelief. Jos came home, his presence bringing life back into the quiet spaces of my house. Every moment with him felt like a precious gift, and I began to see life differently. For the next 2 years, we were inseparable. I cherished every second, knowing that our time together wouldn't last forever. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the inevitable. I had learned that loss, though painful, wasn't the end. When Jos finally passed away, it hurt, but the pain was different this time. It wasn't a consuming, unbearable grief. Instead, it was accompanied by a sense of peace, a quiet understanding that he had returned to my parents just as they had promised. I knew I would see him again someday, and that thought gave me comfort. What I hadn't anticipated was how much my life would change after that. The fear, loneliness, and anger that had defined me for so long began to fade. Something within me had shifted, though I couldn't fully explain it. I woke up each day with a renewed sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of life's fragility and beauty. I began to realize that life is a gift, even when it's painful. Every moment, even the hardest ones, carries the potential for growth and transformation. I understood now that while I couldn't control everything that happened to me, I could choose how to respond. And so, I chose to live, to love, to open my heart to others. In time, I met someone, an incredible woman who shared my love for animals and my appreciation for life's simple joys. She showed me that love, though risky, is worth it. Together, we began to build a life filled with hope and warmth. We spoke about having children, and for the first time, I didn't fear loving or losing. Everything I had experienced, the pain, the loss, the despair, had prepared me to be the person I was becoming. Reflecting on my journey, I've come to realize some profound truths. I've learned that pain is not the end. It's a doorway to something greater. I've learned that we are never truly alone, even in our darkest moments. Life, even when it feels unbearable, always has something to teach us. I've learned that every wound, every scar, can become a source of strength. And I've learned that what truly matters isn't how much we endure, but how much we love. At the end of it all, the love we give and the connections we form are what remain. To anyone reading this, I want to tell you, don't give up. There will be moments when life feels cruel, unfair, and hopeless. There will be days when the pain seems too much to bear. But even in those moments, hold on. Believe that something greater lies ahead. Every heartbeat, every breath is proof that you have a purpose, that there is beauty waiting for you beyond the pain. The message I received from Jesus remains etched in my heart. Everything you carry with you at the end of life is what you have given. Those words changed me. They reminded me that no matter how much we think we've lost, no matter how many scars we carry, what truly matters is the love we give and the lives we touch. Now, I live each day with that understanding. I strive to give as much love as I can, to be kind, to listen, to lend a hand to those in need, because in the end, what truly lasts is the love we sow along the way. It's not always easy. There are still hard days, moments of doubt and despair. But even in those moments, I find hope. If I could leave you with one thought, it would be this: let your pain transform you, not consume you. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself for your mistakes. And above all, never stop loving. Even when everything seems lost, remember that life always offers a new beginning, a new chance to find joy and purpose. Joe saved my life more times than I can count. His love, like that of my parents and Jesus, will always be with me. I know now that I will never truly be alone, because the bonds we build in life never fade. They live on in our hearts, guiding us and reminding us that every act of love we give becomes eternal. Prayer time. Dear God, in this quiet moment, I come before you with a heart that feels fragile, weighed down by fear, pain, and uncertainty. You know the depth of my struggles, the wounds I carry, and the silent battles I fight every day. Lord, I lay them all at your feet, for I know that you are the source of all strength, peace, and healing. In this quiet moment, I come before you with a heart that feels fragile, weighed down by fear, pain, and uncertainty. You know the depth of my struggles, the wounds I carry, and the silent battles I fight every day. Lord, I lay them all at your feet, for I know that you are the source of all strength, peace, and healing. I ask for your strength, O God, to face the challenges before me. When I feel weak, remind me that your power is made perfect in my weakness. When the burdens of life feel too heavy to bear, lift me up and carry me through. Grant me the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear and the future feels uncertain. Help me to trust that you are guiding me, even when I cannot see the way. Lord, you see the pain in my heart, the hurts I have tried to hide, the fears that keep me awake at night, and the doubts that whisper that I am not enough. I ask for your healing touch. Heal the wounds of my past that linger in my soul, and cast out the fears that keep me from fully embracing the life you have given me. Help me to let go of the anger, guilt, and regret that weigh me down, and fill those spaces with your love, grace, and peace. Teach me, Lord, to see my struggles not as meaningless, but as opportunities to grow closer to you and to become the person you have created me to be. Remind me that every trial has a purpose, even when I cannot understand it. Let me find strength in knowing that you are using every piece of my story for something greater than I can imagine. Fill my heart with your peace, O God, a peace that surpasses all understanding. In moments of chaos, calm the storms within me. When I feel overwhelmed by fear or sorrow, anchor me in your love. Teach me to rest in the knowledge that you are always with me, that you will never leave or forsake me, and that your plans for me are good. Lord, grant me the wisdom to cherish the blessings you have placed in my life. Help me to find joy in the small moments. A kind word, a warm embrace, a simple sunrise that remind me of your presence. Open my eyes to the beauty around me, even in the midst of pain, and let gratitude flow from my heart for the gifts I so often take for granted. I ask for the courage to love, even when it feels risky. Teach me to open my heart to others, to be vulnerable, and to share the love you have so freely given me. Let me be a reflection of your kindness, offering comfort to those who are hurting and hope to those who are lost. Show me how to forgive, not just others, but also myself, and to release the weight of resentment and self-condemnation. Lord, I pray for hope, a hope that renews my spirit and gives me strength to face each day. When I feel lost, remind me that you are the Good Shepherd, always seeking me, always guiding me back to you. Help me to believe that brighter days are ahead, that the darkness I feel now will not last forever, and that your light will always shine through. Thank you, God, for your unending love and mercy. Thank you for the lessons hidden in my pain, the strength you have already given me, and the promise of your presence in every moment of my life. Thank you for the people who love me and support me, and for the ways you work through them to remind me that I am not alone. Help me, Lord, to trust in your greater plan, even when I cannot understand it. Let my life be a testament to your grace and faithfulness, a story of redemption and renewal that brings glory to you. Teach me to walk each day with faith, gratitude, and an open heart, knowing that you are always with me. In my moments of doubt, remind me that your love is greater than my fears. In my moments of weakness, remind me that your strength is always available to me. And in my moments of despair, remind me that your promises are true and unchanging. May your love transform me, heal me, and guide me so that I may live a life filled with purpose, kindness, and hope. Help me to use the gifts you have given me to bless others, to bring light into the darkness, and to share your love with a world that desperately needs it. Lord, I surrender my life to you. Mold me into the person you created me to be. Help me to trust in your timing, to walk in your ways, and to rest in the knowledge that you are always working for my good. Let my life reflect your love, and let every step I take be guided by your hand. In your holy and precious name, I pray. Amen. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue sharing these powerful stories and creating a space for open, heartfelt conversations. Click the notification bell so you're always updated when we post new content. Together, let's explore the unseen, celebrate the miraculous, and inspire one another to live with love, faith, and wonder.